All right, let's see. If you take 4.5 to 5.5 milligrams oral LDN, can you also apply topical LDN to creams, rashes, itching, and rosacea? Will there be additional benefit? Okay, so if it's an autoimmune disease, I think you should stick to oral wherever possible. If you want to start, if you've got local symptoms and you want to start, that way you can. But in terms of the long term for a autoimmune disease, I think oral is the way to go by far rather than topical, because you see the immunomodulatory effects from the oral that you don't see as well or nearly as well with topical. There's some autoimmune activity from topical, but it's not as good in my opinion. So what are your thoughts on using oral and topical LDN for some of these diseases like psoriasis? If you do, what dose will you use? Okay, so oral, I would just titrate the oral diseases pretty much the way you would any other low-dose naltrexone patient. Typically, I titrate up in 0.5 milligram increments, or I recommend that. The Bahard protocol was 1.5, go up by 1.5 after a week and go up 1.5 after another week, assuming the patient tolerated it. Because to me, I think if you go a little slower, you may attenuate some of the adverse events. And you can find at what point the patient tolerates it and what point they don't. You can back up a little bit, maybe wait a while to attempt going up again later. So there's not one way to do it, right or wrong. If you're going to use topical, like I said, I generally look at the amount of percentage of naltrexone that I recommend based on surface area. So if you're covering an area about the size of your hand, 1% is probably fine. The size of your hand or smaller, 1% is probably fine. If you get into, like, maybe you're treating the entire forearm or the entire arm, then you want to go with 0.5%. If you're treating the trunk, you probably want to go down to 0.1% because it's a lot of surface area. Just kind of be cognizant of how much naltrexone that's getting through the skin during the course of the day. And usually with naltrexone, by the way, I have patients apply it twice daily. So if you're using it topically, and like I said, if you want to use it topically in the beginning, if the patient's got severe pruritus or it's an inflamed skin condition, you're going to take weeks to titrate the patient up to their maintenance dose. Could you start with topical and oral titration at the same time? I think yes. But certainly after 2 or 3 weeks of topical and the dose on the oral has already progressed up above 3 milligrams, you should probably discontinue it especially in the case of autoimmune derm conditions, because to me, the topical is not as efficacious for the autoimmune component as the topical is not as effective as the oral. So I would certainly go with oral in that case.